Today we will be going over the Supreme Week 6 drop list and resell predictions. There's a lot of items that will resell, so I would definitely suggest going for them this week. Alright, first up we got the Supreme Smurfs skateboard. These are going to retail for $60, resell for around $90. In my opinion, this is probably the best item to go for this week, just because it is like a Supreme Smurf skateboard, and it's just like a Supreme box logo skateboard. So a lot of people will be going for these, and since it's with like a weird brand like Smurfs, I never thought a Smurfs and Supreme collab would ever happen. So I think it's like a pretty cool skateboard, and especially if you hold like a year or so, I think these could hit like $150. And just everyone will be going for these this week just because there's really nothing else good to resell this week. So I definitely think this is probably the best item to go for this week, and you should definitely try and go for it because you can definitely resell for some money. Next up, we got the Supreme Webbing Keychain. These are going to retail for $18, resell for around $30. These are really going to be kind of impossible to resell just because the retail prices are so low, and there's just not going to be that much resale price because there's going to be so many of these produced. And although these do look pretty nice, it's really just going to be a personal item unless you can get it in store. You can maybe flip it for like $2 to $3 per one. But I just don't really think you should go for these because although they are cool, it's really nothing to sell, and it's just like a cool thing to put on like your backpack or something, or like, I don't know, I don't really know, or I guess you could put on like your keychain, but it's just a really weird item to have, and it's not like an item you can really flex, you know. Next up, we got the Supreme Shure vocal microphone. These are going to retail for $258, resell for around $280. These definitely won't do that good just because the retail is so high. Like, I think a lot of people would like these if the retail was like $100, but with the retail being $258, there's no way anyone will really buy these for the personal unless they've got a ton of money to spend. So they're not going to resell for that much, so I would stay away from these if you want to resell them. But I think it is a pretty cool item, so if you do have like enough money to spend on these and you're like really into the item, I think you should buy it. I mean, it looks pretty cool. It would just be like a cool item to have in the house, especially if you have like some other things. Next up, we got the world famous box logo New Era. These are going to retail for $48, resell for around $80. In my opinion, these look really nice, and I think it is a pretty cool hat to have if you do like Supreme. I think these look a lot better than the recent hats they've dropped. I don't know, I just like the first time I saw these hats, I'm like, these look pretty good. It's not like I'd ever wear them, but I think a lot of people will like these, and I think it's just a really good hat to resell for a good amount of money. I think these could easily resell for $80, maybe in better colorways like the white one, a little bit more at like $90 or $100 in certain sizes. But these will definitely do really well, and I would suggest going for these in a multi-cart with maybe the Smurfs beanie. Next up, we got the Supreme Globe M1 MA1. These are going to retail for $348 and resell for around $400. Although these are a really cool item, the retail price is way too high, so they're not going to resell for anything. But I do think this is a really cool personal item. I think the logo on the back looks really sick, and I wish they could put this on a tee, which I don't think they will, but I think the logo on the back looks really cool, and if it was on a tee for $38, this would be a really nice thing to have, but it's on a bomber jacket, and the retail's super high, so it's not really going to resell for that much, but it is a really cool personal item to have. Next up, we got the Supreme Enterprises sweatshirt. These are going to retail for $158 and resell for around $180. This is actually probably one of the best sweatshirts they've dropped in a while. I feel like this actually looks pretty good, and it just, I don't know, it looks a lot better than the recent ones they've dropped, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if these do resell in certain colorways, like the cream one looks pretty nice. And this is like a pretty cool personal, but for the prices, it's really not going to do that well for like resell, just because retail is so high. But I would say, yeah, you can definitely make some money in certain colorways and certain sizes, but it's really not going to be like a consistent resell item. Next up, we got the Supreme Smurfs beanie. These are going to retail for $40 and resell for around $60. This is really only going to be a multi-cart item. You put it with the box logo hat and like maybe something else, and you can definitely make money on this. but really by itself it's not going to resell at all. It's only going to resell for about $60. So there's not like that much margins on these. But I think these could be a good hold for the future, especially if, like, I don't know, they make another Smurfs movie or something, and, like, Smurfs gets really back into, like, I don't know, the swing of things, and it's, like, more popular. I think these could resell for, like, $80 in, like, a couple months or a year, but it's really not going to be the greatest resale item unless you get it in a multi-cart, so I'd really stay away from this and try and go for, like, the hat or something else instead of this, but it's definitely a cool item to have either way. Next up, we got the Supreme Jacquard Denim Crusher. These are going to retail for $54 and resell for around $80. In my opinion, these do look pretty nice, and they released a similar one to this last season, I believe, and these did really well. They'll just not have that much volume, so if you are selling on like StockX, it could take a while for you to sell these, but I think these are a really good item to go for, and they'll definitely resell for a good amount. So it's a great multi-cart item along with like the beanie and the box logo hat, because those will all do amazing together. So if you get all three of these in a multi-cart, I think you could definitely make like $50 to $80 on your cart. Next up, we got the Supreme Smurf sweater. These are going to retail for $178 and resell for around $200. In my opinion, these look really nice, and I think these would be kind of cool if they didn't have the Smurfs guy in the front, but I feel like the Smurfs guy kind of ruins it. Like, I don't think I'd ever try and wear someone with Smurfs on it unless I'm, like, really into Smurfs. So, like, I wouldn't wear this, but I do think it looks cool, and I think it is a pretty cool item to have, although it is, like, an item for Smurfs fans, not for, like, fans of Supreme. So I think that'll throw a lot of people off, but it really won't resell that well, so I'd kind of stay away from it unless you want it for a personal. Next up, we got the Supreme Smurf sweatshirt. These are going to retail for $178 and resell for around $200. These are interesting in my opinion just because it literally looks like a blue sweatshirt unless you probably get really close to it. So you can't really see the logo on the back at all. So I think some people could want it just because it is like a cool embroidered logo, I believe. But it's just such a weird item to have because it just looks like a blue sweatshirt until you like get really close to it. So I don't think it's really a personal item either. It just looks kind of weird in my opinion, but it's a pretty cool item either way. Next up, we got the Supreme Jacquard Denim Camp Cap. These are going to retail for $48 and resell for around $70. In my opinion, this is a pretty cool item to have, and like the Denim Crusher, I think these will do pretty good. I think, especially with the retail of $48, I think with a multi-cart of this and the Denim Crusher, or this and the box logo hat as well, I think these should do very well. I mean, I think prices will be pretty good either way, but there just might not be that much volume. But I think in a multi-cart, you can definitely make a good amount of money off these. So I would suggest going for them in a multi-cart. Next up, we got the Supreme Wash short sleeve tee. These are going to retail for $58 and resell for around $70. In my opinion, this really isn't a good item to go for because like the tees really never do good, especially if a retail is high like this. So I really wouldn't go for these, and it's just such a really boring logo. I wouldn't go for these unless you want them for a personal, which I do think it's a pretty cool item for a personal just because retail is kind of low at least. Like, it's not like the tops where the retail is like $88. These are at least $58. So it's a reasonable price to pay, but it's still kind of high, so I'd probably stay away from that myself. Next up, we got the Supreme Velour baseball jersey. These are going to retail for $118 and resell for around $140. In my opinion, this really isn't the greatest item to go for just because retail is going to be pretty high on these. But I think in the black colorway, these do look kind of fine. So I wouldn't be surprised if you could make some money, but I would just kind of stay away from these if you are trying to resell. I think it is kind of a cool item to have just as a personal, but I don't really know when people wear baseball jerseys just out and about. It's kind of like a weird item to wear out and about. Next up, we got the Supreme Curved Logo Ripstop jacket. These are going to retail for $168, resell for around $200. In my opinion, usually Supreme outerwear is pretty nice, and I think I really wouldn't be surprised if these do well, but I just don't think like the logos really look good on these. I think it's like a kind of a weird item to have. So I think they're going to resell for around $200, but I think they could be a lot more or like a little bit less just really depending on stock and how people actually like these. I wouldn't be surprised if they just sit in stock for a while. So if you do want these for personal, you can pretty easily cop these. Next up, we got the Supreme multi-pattern beanie. These are going to retail for $36, resell for around $50. I think this is definitely a good item to go for in a multi-cart because I do think these will appreciate as time goes on. I think the black, the dark colorway will do a little bit better just because I feel like it kind of fits in with the logo on it. But I do think this is a pretty cool item to have, and I wouldn't be surprised if these hit like $80 or $90 in a year or so. Next up, we got the Supreme Smurfs leather jacket. These are going to retail for $788 and resell for around $700. This is an item I'd be ashamed to wear in public just because I don't know why you'd ever wear a leather jacket with Smurfs on it, but I just feel like that's just the weirdest combo ever. But, I mean, it's kind of a cool item, but just for the price of $788, it's just way too much. And I don't think it's ever good to spend $788 on a Smurfs leather jacket, so I would definitely stay away from this one. Next up, we got the Supreme Curve Logos Ripstop Pant. These are going to retail for $128, resell for around $140. I mean, these are a kind of cool item, but really I'd stay away from them just because it's a Ripstop pant, and these basically never resell. So it's definitely not going to resell, but it kind of could be a cool personal item. Next up, we got the Supreme Marble Silk Short Sleeve Shirt. These are going to retail for $158, resell for around $160. In my opinion, the only reason I would ever buy this is if I had marble on like my floor or my countertop that looks exactly like this and I could just wear it and blend in, because this is so ugly. I don't know why anyone would buy this, so I would 100% stay away from this. It just seems like such a weird item. I guess it kind of does look designer, but it's just not the greatest item, and I'd definitely stay away from it. Next up, we got the Supreme Jacquard striped twill shirt. These are going to retail for $128 and resell for around $130. I mean, this is kind of a cool item to have just because it is kind of like a high quality shirt for a cheap price, but there's going to be no Supreme branding on it, so it's definitely not going to resell. So I'd stay away from it if you're going for resell. But overall, this whole drop has a bunch of good items and a bunch of good multi-cart items. So I'd definitely try and at least go for something this week and try and make some money. If you guys do want to join my Discord, there is a link in the description. We got a ton of stuff in there. We got slots, we got monitors for Shopify, and we just got a bunch of people that can help you out with anything reselling. And we got a ton of good people in there. It's a great community. I would 100% suggest you joining it.